All right, let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Alex's Adventures in English. This is part 2 of our special episode on British pronunciation, based on the dramatic short story The Escaped Man by C.T. Platt, read by the legendary Luke Thompson on episode 739 of Luke's English podcasts. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, go check it out. It's on YouTube, on my YouTube, Alex's Adventures in English. And yes, don't miss that one out. That's part 1. Of this episode. As a quick reminder, in Luke's original episode, he reads the story, then breaks it down for vocabulary and grammar, and finally explores comprehension questions and narrative tenses. So in this episode, in my episode, and this part 2 of this episode, I'm complementing that fantastic work by analysing Luke's pronunciation line by line to help you sound more natural when speaking British English. And just so you know, in case you didn't know, Luke Thompson is an English teacher, and he holds a podcast called Luke's English Podcasts. It's very famous and worldwide, and you should check it out. I think he's got around 1.5 million, 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Okay, let's focus now on part 1, this episode. Actually, this is part 2, but just so you know, in part 1 of this episode, we analysed the first 5 lines of the story. The story is called The Escaped Man, right? As I said before. So, in this part, we'll continue from line 6. But first, we're going to watch Luke read the first 5 lines. And I'm going to remind you a bit about the pronunciation of how to read these lines. So, let's do that.
Here we go. The Escaped Man by C.T. Platt.
Just let me tweak the settings. There we go.
It was like driving through a thick curtain of water. He eased off the accelerator a little. Had to be careful driving on wild nights like these. The last thing you'd want is to have an accident or breakdown. You just want to be at home on these stormy nights.
All right. So those are the first 5 lines in the story. And now what we are going to do in this episode, as we did in the previous one, is to do the following. So play the clip. Play this video not at full speed, but at 65% speed to catch every nuance. Then I'm going to analyze each line for vowel and consonant sounds, connected speech, stress, and intonation. Then we're going to repeat after Luke all together. I'm going to repeat after him, and you're going to do that too. Then we're going to shadow. We're going to shadow Luke at this slow speed. Shadow means to say something at the same time as another speaker. So in this case, we have to, if he says a line, we try and say it at the same time, simultaneously. Okay. And finally, we're gonna try and shadow Luke at 75% speed, not at full speed, because he reads this story too fast, and that's an advanced level, to achieve in reading. So let's crack on with this episode, with part 2, and let's continue from line 6. Okay. So
The last thing you'd want is to have an accident or breakdown. You just want to be at home on these stormy nights.
okay. Now let me slow down the speed a bit. Perfect. Great. Okay, let's continue from there. Okay. Perfect. And just so you know, I'm live on YouTube too. Not only on TikTok, but on YouTube. So I'm going to speak to both audiences. Okay? All right, perfect. Let's focus now on the story, line 6.
The last thing you'd want is to have an accident or breakdown. You just want to be at home on these stormy nights.
All right, that's line 5. Now let's continue with line 6.
The thwack, thwack of the windscreen wipers.
Okay, the thwack, 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 thwack. The thwack, thwack of the windscreen wipers. The thwack, thwack of the windscreen wipers. Repeat after me. Can you do that? The thwack, thwack of the windscreen wipers. Yes, so great. Sorry, I was just checking out a message I got from TikTok. Okay, so sorry, I got distracted. The thwack, thwack of the windscreen wipers. Thwack, thwack. This word. This is thwack begins with the same sound as the word think. Thwack, thwack. You've got to stick your tongue in between your teeth, like this. thwack, thwack. Then you pronounce the what sound. You say thwack, thwack, and it kind of rhymes with pack, thwack. The thwack is an onomatopoeic word, which means that it represents the sound it refers to. This is this sound that the windscreen wipers, a car's windscreen wipers makes. So this is with a schwa. Okay, we say the thwack, the thwack, the thwack, the thwack, the thwack, the thwack of the windscreen wipers. These are all pronounced with the schwa sound. Do you know that sound in English? It's the most common, and you pronounce it like this: the thwack of the windscreen wipers. And in the word windscreen, you don't pronounce the D. That's a silent letter, I meant to say. So this is a silent letter. Okay, you don't pronounce it. You say windscreen wipers, windscreen wipers. Windscreen wipers. Let's continue with this line.
Was hypnotic.
Was hypnotic. Was hypnotic. Was hypnotic. So here we've got to be careful with the first sound in hypnotic. Hypnotic. Was hypnotic. The stressed syllable in the word hypnotic is the second syllable. This one, not. Hypnotic. Hypnotic. And be careful not to produce, be careful when you produce the h sound in hypnotic. There shouldn't be any friction, in your mouth, in your throat. You shouldn't say hypnotic, but hypnotic. Hypnotic. Perfect. Okay, let's move on. If you've got any questions, be my guest and drop them in the chat. Either in both. You can do that on TikTok and on YouTube, of course. Perfect. Excellent. Let's continue with great. Let's continue with the next line.
He stared out into the glow of the headlights.
He stared out into the glow of the headlights. He stared again. He stared. He stared out. Here we've got a phenomenon very commonly found in connected speech in English, which is catenation we connect, which means that we connect the last consonant sound in one word to the initial vowel sound in the next word. So we say stared out, stared out. He stared out into the glow, into the glow, into the glow. This one is pronounced with a schwa. That is a symbol that represents that sound. And we say, he stared out into the glow, the glow. That is also pronounced with a schwa. That's for you to know. He stared out into the glow, glow. Let's watch that again, that part again.
He stared out into the glow of the
Glow. Did you notice that? His mouth. If you didn't, let me help you.
cold nights like these.
Listen up.
Is to have an accident. You just want me a thwack. No.
There we go.
He stared out into the glow of
Glow. Did you notice his mouth now? He does this. Glow. Glow. That's the shape he creates with his mouth. Glow. So that's what we've got to do here. This is a diphthong. The one in glow is an O diphthong. That is to say, a vowel sound made up of two vowel sounds, of two. Yeah. So, and there's a glide in between them, you know, because you go from the O to the U. Glow, glow. He stared out into the glow of the headlights, of the usually in English, these words, like of the, are not accented. That is to say, they don't carry the main stress. They're not pronounced very strongly in a sentence. It's like you don't focus on them. You focus on other words, such as verbs, for example, stared out into the glow, a noun, into the glow of the headlights, Headlights is another noun. Perfect. Let's continue. If you've got any doubts, please don't hesitate to drop your comments below. Perfect. So, we've got the... Let's continue. Just let me tweak the speed. Remember that we're trying to listen to Luke at 65% of speed. Yeah. Perfect.
Of the rain. He pulled his hood back and
Sorry.
wore the car. Glow of the headlights.
Glow of the headlights. Headlights. In the word headlights, we accent the first syllable, head. The headlights. The headlights. And this is because this word is actually a compound noun. It's made up out of two nouns, head and lights. And in compound nouns, in English, we stress the first item in the the first word in the item. That's what I meant to say. In this case, headlights. And to give you another example, credit card, debit card. These are all compound nouns.
The rain sounded like white noise interference.
The rain sounded. So in this case, we've got the rain sounded. The rain sounded. The rain. We pronounce this word with a schwa sound. So we say the rain. And we begin the word rain with rounded lips. Rain. And it's a diphthong. A. Rain. The rain sounded. The ed ending in the word sounded is pronounced as ed. Because the word sound ends with a d sound, with a d consonant. This one. And that's the rule for simple past verbs, or verbs in the simple past, regular verbs in the simple pasts. If the infinitive verb, the verb, without to, or without not being conjugated, ends in the, like for example, no, I can't think of any example right now, but well, this is a good example actually. You say sound as a verb. Here the ed is pronounced like this. Sorry. And maybe I could give you a good example of other verbs. Verbs ending in the. Yeah, so regular verbs ending in the. Okay, remind. There's a word right there in the story, actually. Remind. Remind. I mean, when you go to the dictionary, you'll find it like this. Remind. It ends in this sound, the d consonant. So when you conjugate the verb in the simple pasts, you pronounced the ed ending as ed. Reminded. Okay, reminded. Perfect. Let's move on Other examples are, for example, need. Before moving on, need, we say needed. Let me give you another example. End, ended. Decide, decided. So, if you've got any questions about this topic, please drop your comments below. Or it could be in the episode's comment section later on if you want to. That's up to you. Perfect. So, let's continue. So, the rain sounded like white noise interference. White noise interference. Interference. We can listen to that one more time, of course, or once again.
The rain sounded like white noise interference.
White noise interference. 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 Can you repeat after me? Interference. Interference. It's not interference, but interference. Interference. We accent the, let me share with you the pronunciation, the dictionary pronunciation.
Interference.
Interference. Interference. So, this is an interesting word because it's double stressed, which means there are two stresses or accents in the word. And they are in, which can be indicated like this, in, and fear, fear, fear. In and fear. Interference, interference. So, the main stress goes on fear, the syllable fear. And the secondary stress goes on the syllable in, interference, interference. Can you repeat after me? Interference, interference. Well done, very good. Let's listen to that. Let's watch that one more time.
He stared out into the glow of the headlights. The rain sounded like white noise interference.
Interference. You will notice that nowadays we can even do this, guys. We can slow it down even more so that we can, notice more details, more nuances in Luke's speech. Let me give that a go.
The glow of the like white noise interference.
Interference. This is just so you know, in a more traditional British English called a version called RP, received pronunciation, usually here you'll hear interfere, ear with the diphthong, ear. But Luke speaks with a Southern Standard British English, a modern version of that, received, of that accent, you know, of received pronunciation. So, in this accent, this ear diphthong is usually replaced by E, by an E sound. So he says interference, interference. And there are many other examples that right now don't come to mind, but later on I will mention them to you. I will mention them to you. Interference. Interference. Very good. Let me change the speed. 65% again. Good. Let's continue.
As it battered the car.
As it battered the car. As it. In that case, we've got to be careful with the pronunciation of as it. We've got to connect. We've got to connect the what we do here is to connect the last consonant sound in the word as with the initial vowel sound in the next word. So we get, not with that color, let me change it. As it. So once again, this is called catenation, which refers to the linking of a final consonant sound in one word to the initial vowel sound in the next word. So what Luke does is to say as it battered, the car, the car. Shall we listen? Shall we watch that again? Let's.
As it battered the car. Interference as it battered the car. Noise interference as it.
Look at that. Let me do something with the speed so that you can notice something which is quite interesting. Give me 1 sec. There we go. I'm gonna slow down the reproduction, and this is the speed. That's what I meant to say. I'm gonna slow it down so that you can notice what I've noticed.
Was hypnotic. He stared out into the. The last thing you'd want an actor. The back of the.
Sorry, guys. I need to find the line.
Out into the glow of the headlight. The rain whitens car.
There we go.
Battered the car. As it battered
again.
the car. As it
A.
Yeah, there we go. So he doesn't say as it battered, because as you can see, the word that comes right after as ends with a t, it has a t in it, doesn't it? So this one, the t there, but Luke doesn't actually say as it. He goes straight to saying as it. So in other words, the t or the t sound becomes a p sound. And this is called assimilation, and which is a very commonly found phenomenon in connected speech in English. It happens all the time, actually. So this is as if but of course he doesn't release the air at the end of the p sound. He doesn't say as if battered, but actually, well, he doesn't release it. He goes straight to the b or the b in the next word, as it battered. Why do native speakers do this? Well, it's easier to pronounce words together in this way. Any questions, guys? If you've got any questions, do let me know. As it battered the car. Battered. The first syllable, the vowel sound in the first syllable, is the same as in cats. Battered. And the ending here is a schwa. That is to say, we say battered. We don't say battered, but battered. Very good. Have you got any questions so far? Next come the words the car. As it battered the car. The. Again, with a schwa sound, and this the consonant at the beginning. The. Battered the car. He doesn't pronounce the letter or the sound r at the end, does he? Because in his accent, in Southern Standard British English, we don't pronounce the letter r or the sound r when right before silence. You know, if there's silence right after it, we don't pronounce it. We don't pronounce the r sound or the letter r. So the car. We only pronounce the r sound in this accent when right after it comes a vowel sound. For example, the car is in the car park. The car is in the car is in the car park, for example. But this is not the case. We say the car, with this long R sound found in this accent, and in other words such as garden or far. All right, let's continue. And don't forget, guys, if you're enjoying this and if you want more content like this, please, if you haven't done it so, subscribe to my channel on YouTube and TikTok. To my channels, actually, both channels, one on YouTube and another on TikTok, and give me a thumbs up, give me a like and subscribe. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, because in that way you're supporting the channel. Perfect. So now we've got to rewind a bit, I think. Yes, we do have to. Let's continue.
Sounded like white noise interference as it battered the car. He was reminded opening scenes of a Hitchcock film.
He was reminded of the opening scenes. The opening scenes. As I said before, this is reminded of the opening scenes of the, again, this is pronounced with a schwa of, but the next word, this one, what sound did you hear there? Shall we give it another go? Shall we watch it again?
Reminded of the opening scene.
Does Luke say of the opening or of the opening? He actually says of the opening, the opening. Why? Because right after it comes a word beginning with a vowel sound. Specifically, the sound is O, a diphthong. He was reminded of the O, of the O. And this is what happens with the pronunciation of the word the or the in English. When right after it comes a vowel sound, right, and we connect both words, you will pronounce this word like this. I'm gonna draw the symbol for this consonant sound. This refers to the sound in consonant in English, and I was going to focus on the vowel sound only. So in this case, we say the opening, when right after it comes a vowel sound. Right? But let's suppose that right after it, let's focus on this one, on the wash. The wash. The wash. There, in the wash, we say I think we should watch the clip to see what he says before I say it. Okay? I prefer doing that. I prefer to do that, actually.
Of a Hitchcock film. Through the wash.
Through the wash, the wash. So in this case, he says the. Why? Because right after it comes a consonant sound. The C stands for consonant here. The W sound. We've got a W sound there. So the wash, the wash, the wash. So these are two ways of pronouncing the word. The definite article, that's the name, the grammatical name for the word the in English, or the. All right, let's go on. Let's move on. The opening scenes. Scenes. That's the way you pronounce it. And the way he pronounces it. Scenes. Let's watch that once again.
Reminded of the opening scenes.
Scenes.
Hitchcock.
Scenes. So in a way, it's like you've got only one. You will pronounce only that one, right? Scenes. Scenes with a long E sound. Scenes. That's a long E sound, and the two dots indicate that it's a long sound. Scenes, scenes, scenes of a Hitchcock film, of a Hitchcock, of a. Why is it important to focus on these words, on how these words are pronounced in these extracts? Well, this is what makes English sound like this, as it sounds, right? Like it seems that you will notice that Luke only focuses on some words, not on every single word, and that's what makes English sound with this rhythm. You know, he was reminded of the opening scenes of a Hitchcock film, of a Hitchcock film. It's not of a Hitchcock film. It's of a Hitchcock film. So of a Hitchcock film. Hitchcock. You stress Hitchcock film. Perfect. Any doubts, guys? Don't forget to drop your comments below. You can do that on YouTube and TikTok. And let me just remind you that I'm live on both platforms at the moment. Yeah, and don't forget to like, guys, and subscribe on both channels, both platforms. You help me a lot if you do that. Let's move on. And on TikTok, by the way, there's a live goal. A rose, a red rose, I think I see. Right, so if you're enjoying this, You can send me your gifts. Okay, let's continue.
Film. Through the wash of the rain.
So this word begins like this: through the wash, through the wash, through the wash. One of the keys to be able to pronounce the first word is to do this with your lips. Ooh, ooh. Push them forwards. You say through, through, through. Don't forget about sticking your tongue in between your teeth. Through, through, through the wash, through the wash of the rain.
Through the wash of the rain, he spotted a figure at the side of the road.
He spotted a figure. Notice the pause he makes. He spotted a figure. He spotted a figure. This is another word. The verb spots ends with a T consonant. This is, there we go. Spots. And when talking about regular verbs in the simple past, the same rule applies here as when a verb ends in a D consonant or a D sound. So we double the T and we say spotted, spotted. The final pronunciation of the ending, the ed ending is ed. Spotted, spotted. Previously, we said that if a verb in the infinitive, that is to say, as you find it in a dictionary, ends in a d consonant, like for example, we mentioned sound. Sound. In the simple past is like this. So we pronounce this as sounded, sounded. So these are two rules for regular verbs in the simple past in English. If they end, we can subsume the rule into one idea. If a verb ends in t or d, if a regular verb ends in t or d in the infinitive form, that is to say, as you find the verb in a dictionary, when you add the ed ending, you pronounce that ed as id. Sounded, spotted. Perfect. I hope that's clear. That's clear for you, guys. Do let me know in the comments if it isn't. Perfect. Let me check the comments just in case you've dropped one. Let me say hi on YouTube. Guys, welcome. You can introduce yourselves, guys, either on both platforms, in both chats. You can introduce yourselves and let me know where you're from, where you're watching me from. Where are you watching me from? Oh, thank you very much for that like on YouTube. I really appreciate it. And for the 3 hearts on TikTok. Thank you very much, guys. Great. Perfect. And let me send you a message on TikTok. Where are you from? Where are you watching me from? Perfect. Let's continue. So, through the wash of the rain.
The person through the wash of the rain, he spotted a figure at the side of the road. The rain, he spotted a figure at the side of the road.
He spotted a figure. A figure. So this is a figure. 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 You don't say figure. A figure. But a figure. Figure. You don't pronounce that R sound or that R letter. Perfect. So this is... He spotted a figure at the side of the road. At the side of the road. Can you repeat after me? At the side of the road. At the side of the road. Anyway, when we finish reading, we're gonna go through each line once again, and you'll be given the chance to repeat after me and to shadow each line with me. Perfect. So, he spotted a figure at the side of the road. At the side of the road. Again, at the side of the road. Of the road. Of the... All these are pronounced with schwas. That is to say, with this very small sound in English, which is very frequent. It's the most frequent sound in English. So we need to master it, of course. Perfect. And road, road. This is pronounced just like glow, glow, a word that appears in the story before this line. Glow, that diphthong, oh, oh.
He spotted a figure at the side of the road. The person wore a green parka.
The person wore a green parka. The person wore a green parka. The person. Again, this is the, because right after it comes what kind of sound, guys? Do you remember what I said? What I said before? So, if the word the, the, is immediately followed by a consonant sound, like p in this case, we say the person. That's That's what we mentioned before. Right here. We said that in this example, we said the wash. Those are my dogs. I guess you can hear them. Sorry. Okay. So the wash, the right after immediately followed by a consonant sound, like were in this case, we say the wash. But if the is immediately followed by a vowel sound, we say the opening, the opening scenes. But then the wash. And in the last example, we said the person, the road. There are two examples there. The road, the person. Is that clear? Is that clear to you guys? Do let me know in the comments below. Perfect. Great. So the person wore a green parka. Person. Let's watch this.
And had their thumbs and wore at the side of the road. The person wore a green parka.
The person wore a green parka. So in this line, it's interesting to notice how Luke doesn't pronounce the letter R. So he doesn't pronounce it in person. He doesn't say person, as in American English. He says person, the person, wore. He doesn't say wore, as in American English or other accents. He says wore, the person wore a green parka. Yeah, and this E letter is silent there. So we don't pronounce it. It's wore a green parka. A green parka, green with a long E sound. A green parka. Parka, in Parker, again, the letter R is not pronounced because right after it comes a consonant sound. And as I mentioned before, this is a rule in English, in this accent actually. If the letter R is immediately followed by a consonant sound or silence or a pause, you don't pronounce the R sound. Perfect. Great.
And had their thumb jerked out.
And had their thumb. And had their thumb. And had their there. That's the way you pronounce this word in this accent. There. And had. Be careful with the pronunciation of had there. You don't have to say had, but had. Without friction in the throat, you say had, and had their thumb, the. This is the same consonant sound in the word the, for example. This is this sound, and you can find it in words like the or there. but not in the word thumb. Thumb. The initial sound there is different. That's thumb. You'll notice that there's no vibration in the vocal folds when you produce the initial sound in thumb. Put your fingers here and you'll notice that. Thumb, thumb. But when you say the, the, as in the or there is vibration in the vocal folds. You should notice that. You should feel it in your fingers. So there, the. So this is an important distinction to be aware of in English. Let's continue.
Their thumb jerked out. Ian Parker
jerked out.
Had their thumb jerked out.
In the word thumb, the B silent. You don't pronounce it, no, there's no need. Thumb. You only pronounce the M sound at the end. Thumb. And the vowel sound is the same as in, for example, but. When you say but, like this. So this is thumb. And had their thumb jerked out. This is a verb ending in ed. Sorry, a verb ending in ed. This one, right? And you might be wondering how we pronounce this ending, this ed ending. Let's watch Luke once again. Pay attention to that.
Green Parker and had their thumb jerked out.
Jerked out, jerked. So in this case, in the word jerked, the verb in the infinitive, that is to say, not conjugated, as it's found in dictionaries, this is it. Jerk. But in the simple past, it's a regular verb. But we don't say jerkied. We say jerked. So the ending is pronounced as t. Jerked. You might be wondering, when do we pronounce when the ed ending is pronounced like this in English? And I can help you with that. So if a verb, an infinitive verb, ends in a voiceless sound, that is to say, and you might be wondering, oh, wait a minute, Alex, I don't know what voiceless means. Voiceless, sorry about this, voiceless Oh, I forgot to do something, guys. Just Yeah, the sound of the rain. Perfect. Great. Now... So, voiceless sounds. Guys, what do I mean by that? So a voiceless sound. Let me see if you can see this on screen. Okay, you can't see that on screen. Great. So jerked. A voiceless consonant is a consonant in which there's no vibration in the vocal folds. I talked to you about this before, didn't I? Words, sounds like, for example, k, k, p, p. If you put your fingers here, you won't notice. You shouldn't feel vibration in your throat. You say s, as in thumb. That's a voiceless consonant, a voiceless sound. And voice refers to these vibration in the vocal folds or vocal cords. And it's voiceless. Less means that it doesn't have that. That something doesn't have that, you know. So voiceless. It doesn't have voice. It doesn't have... There's no vibration in the sound produced in the vocal folds when you produce the sound. And why is this? Why do you have to know this? Well, it's essential to know the rule of when to pronounce an ed ending in a regular simple past verb. You know, if a word ends in a voiceless sound that is not t, you know, that is not t, that sound, you pronounce the ed ending as t. Does that make sense? Does that make any sense to you? Let me explain it again. So if you've got a verb like, for example, spot. In the simple past, you double the final T and you get spotted. So the verb in the infinitive ends in t. Okay? T is a voiceless sound, right? But the rule in English, in pronunciation here, is that if a verb ends in t, the ed ending is pronounced as id, spotted. And the other rule for the pronunciation of the ed ending in the simple past is that if a verb ends in any voiceless sound except t, you pronounce that ed as t. So you say, for example, jerked. And let me give you other examples, like the word like, the verb like. There's a good example. Like, in the simple past, this is a regular verb, so we need to add d to it at the end. We pronounce these as liked. Why? Because the k sound in English is voiceless. You say k, k, no vibration in the vocal folds. So liked. Let me give you another example. Let me see if I can find another example in the story. I don't see any. Want. Well, this is in the infinitive, but if we had to analyze that one, want, we'll say. Do you say want in the simple past or wanted? Wanted, don't you? Because it ends in T in the T letter and in the T sound. So we say wanted. The ED is pronounced like this. Wanted because of this sound, because of this letter and sound. Wanted. Perfect. Wanted. But now we're looking for a verb ending in another voiceless consonant that is not T. Well, we've got let me see. I don't see any. No verbs ending in voiceless consonants here. We've got put. You get, and let me do the following with this. There we go. Perfect. Alright, let me give you my examples. If there are no examples here, I'm going to give you my examples. So, other verbs. Oh, can you think of other examples, other verbs ending in voiceless consonants that are not T? Like is one. Like. Strike is another one. Strike. Strike. This one, the E is silent at the end, right? Strike. In the how do you pronounce the ED at the end of this word? So striked, right? Striked. Remember that, because if a verb ends in a voiceless consonant that is not T, the ED ending is pronounced as T. Great. Very good. I hope that's clear for you. Is it? If it isn't, do let me know in the comments. In the comments below. Drop a comment and I will answer your questions. Of course. So, and don't forget, guys, if you're enjoying this live session, do like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed and if you haven't given me or given this live session a like or a thumbs up, do so. You're really supporting my channel. My channels, actually, because I'm now live on YouTube and TikTok. Great, let's go back to the story. This mystery story. Can you hear the rain? falling. Oh, just done. Okay, there we go. Let's continue.
Why on earth or agree at the side? Through the wash of the rain he spotted a figure at the side of the road. The person wore a green parka road. The
person wore a green parka. The person wore a green parka. Just heard some kind of noise, some kind of sound. Don't know what it was. Never mind. So, the person wore a green parka.
person wore a green parka and had their thumb jerked out.
And had their thumb jerked out. Another thing to mention here is that there's an instance of catenation between jerked and out, which means, this is something I mentioned before, but just in case you've just joined this live session or that you haven't watched my previous live sessions on YouTube, which, by the way, are right there waiting for you if you want to have a look at them. I've shadowed Luke Thompson before in other episodes. For example, there's an episode I recorded on Parsons Pleasure, which is a story written by Roald Dahl and narrated by Luke Thompson on his channel, on his YouTube channel. So I did the same I'm doing right now with that episode. So you should check it out if you want to. And there are other episodes as well. So, going back to jerked out. Jerked out, inject out, there's an instance of catenation. Let me write it down for you, just in case you don't know what I'm talking about, or you don't know how to spell it. Catenation. Anyway, this is a kind of fancy term to refer to the linking of a final consonant to the initial vowel sound in the next word. So this means that you get here jerked out. The word jerked ends in t, the t consonant here, doesn't it? As we said before. But just in case you've just joined this session, jerked ends in t. And guys, just so you know, I'm gonna you'll be able to watch this video on YouTube after the session comes to an end. You'll be able to watch it there, and I will include timestamps for you to be able to navigate the episode as you prefer. Okay, there we go. So jerked out. Shall we watch Luke Thompson pronounce it?
Their thumb jerked out.
Jerked out. Great.
Why on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight?
Well, this is a question, a very interesting question.
Their thumb jerked out.
guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your comments below. I'd really appreciate your support to the channel. You'll be really supporting the channel with your likes and subscriptions, of course. So, he says,
Why on earth?
why on earth? Why on earth? Why on earth? Why on? First, he connects. Let me see, this is too thick. No, that's better, I believe. Yeah, there we go. With a y sound, he connects, Luke connects the word why to the word on. Why on? Why on? Why on earth? Why on earth? Why on earth would anyone would
anyone be hitchhiking tonight? Surely you would just stay put until the morning.
And here comes something very interesting. Sorry about this. I've got to skip all this to get to the part we're paying attention to. Did you notice that? Why on earth? Why on earth? That's the way he pronounces this, because he's making emphasis on the word. Why on earth? Why on earth? And there again. Why on earth would anyone would anyone
You won't be one earth would anyone.
You notice there's something going on in Luke's throat when he says, why on earth would anyone? This has a name, actually. And one way to call this is, some books call it glottal reinforcement. Reinforcement, which is a fancy name to refer to beginning a word with a glottal stop because of emphasis. What are you talking about, Alex? Are you saying that? I hope not. But if you are, you're totally right. I mean, why would you know this? Reinforcement. Glottal reinforcement, which means beginning a sound, beginning a word with a glottal stop, with this this glottal sound. Like, why on earth would anyone and this glottal stop usually happens at the end of words in British English, in Luke's accents, in For example, gets. Gets. He usually pronounces it like this. Get. Get. You've got to get. You've got to get. You've got to get. Get. So in that case, rather than glottal reinforcement, you get glottal replacement, which means that the glottal stop replaces the T sound. Because the word is get, right? Gets. So this is replaced by a glottal stop. And this is a symbol for the glottal stop. Get. Get. And there is one example in this story that I'm going to mention in a minute, I think. So let's go back to the story. And of course, if you do have any questions, guys, you can drop them. You can drop them in the comments below. That'll be perfect. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. So, why on earth
would anyone?
And I have to say that this is quite advanced, you know, knowing glottal reinforcement. And to be honest with you, I learned this not long ago, glottal reinforcement, which has other name. Professor Jeffrey Lindsay on YouTube. He's on YouTube, but apart from that, he's a professor of phonetics and phonology. He teaches. He's a British professor. He refers to this phenomenon as heart attack. Again, another term you need to understand to only that what you need to understand about this is that you begin a word because of emphasis. You begin it with a glottal stop. Like, for example, I was watching a video some time ago actually, and this British guy said, I've taught English at all levels of instruction, at all levels of instruction, and in that case, you get glottal reinforcement because at the beginning, he begins with the glottal stop, and then at the end, you got glottal replacement because instead of saying at, he says at all levels of instruction, all again. So this is something that happens with native speakers. Anyway, I don't want to get carried away by this. So, glottal reinforcement.
The hitchhiking speed would anyone
See,
earth
why on
would
earth?
anyone earth would.
And one clue to notice that there's glottal reinforcement there is that he doesn't say, why on earth? Why on earth? Why on earth? On earth. There is a pause there. If he hadn't produced this glottal stop, glottal reinforcement at the beginning of earth, he would have said, why on earth? Why on earth? In that case, you've got catenation there. Why on earth? On earth. On earth. Why on earth? Why on earth? Why on earth? Because you get on earth. You link the final sound in the word on with the first sound, the initial sound in the word on. You get why on. Sorry, the final sound in the word on. That one, the n. Why on with the initial sound in the word earth. Why on earth? On earth. Why on earth? But he says, why on earth? Why on earth?
What on earth would...
Did you notice that? Did you notice it? So, why on earth?
anyone be earth would anyone tonight anyone be earth would anyone.
Again, another clue to notice that glottal reinforcement there is that he doesn't say would anyone, would anyone. Would anyone would be an example of catenation, like saying this, would anyone, linking the final sound in the word would anyone, would anyone, would anyone. So why would anyone? Why would anyone? So pronouncing this would anyone. Connecting, right? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do that? That's catenation, linking final consonants with initial vowel sounds. Would anyone? But he doesn't say that, does he? He makes a pause. And the pause can be felt to be produced in his throat.
Anyone be would anyone be earth would anyone.
Yeah, and he's emphasizing both words. Why on earth? Why on earth? This word is usually emphasized. Why on earth are you doing that? Why on earth? Is it, I don't know, is it so expensive? Okay. Any questions, guys, on TikTok or YouTube? Or YouTube. Perfect. So, let's continue.
Here we go. The Escaped Man by C.T. Platt.
Once again, does he? Or has he?
Their thumb jerked out. Why on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight?
So, why on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight? Let me say hi to you on TikTok. Thank you for joining me. So don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel on TikTok and YouTube. And if you follow me on TikTok, you can follow me on YouTube, please. That'll really help me a lot with my content creation project. And if you've got any doubts, don't hesitate to ask those questions to me, of course. And I want to say thank you for joining me today. And later on, just so you know, I'm gonna publish this video on YouTube, including timestamps, so that you can navigate the episode as you prefer, as you see fit. And to see fit means as you prefer. Perfect. So let's go on with the story.
Surely you would just stay put until the morning.
Surely you would just stay put until the morning. Surely you would just stay put. What can we say about this? Before this, we should say that in hitchhiking, you stress the syllable hitch. Hitchhiking. Why would anyone be... Why on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight? Surely with this O sound found in Luke's accents. Surely. This is a long O sound. Surely you would. Don't forget that in the word would, the L is silent. Would. Surely you would just. This is where the would is pronounced with a short U sound. Would. Surely you would just stay put until the morning. Shall we watch that again? Because there's something I want you to something else I want you to focus on.
Surely you would just stay put until...
This is interesting. Surely you would just stay put. You would just stay. And why is it interesting? Because when he says you would just stay, this word, just, that's the word, just, isn't it? And usually when followed by nothing after it, or by a vowel sound, just in the corner. It's just in the corner. Just in the corner. That's catenation once again. Or silence. Just. You say just. But in this case, it's followed by the word stay. Just stay. So what happens here is that you've got how many consonant sounds? You've got 1, 2, 3 in a row, all together, right next to one another. All next to one another. So just stay. He says just stay. He doesn't say just stay, does he? Watch him again.
Tonight, surely you would just stay.
You would just stay. In fact, what he does by not pronouncing the t sound in the middle of these words, in between these two words, is to produce only one sound, one s sound, a long s sound. So he says, just stay, just stay, just stay. Surely you would just stay put. You would just stay, and that's the way we link these two words. We make them sound as if they were only one word. Surely you would just stay put until the morning. This is something that native speakers do a lot. Why? Because it's far easier to pronounce than saying just stay, just stay. It's like in connected speech, it doesn't make sense to say, surely we just stay, just stay, just stay. And when can you do this? When you've got three consonant sounds together and they are right after a word begins, you got one word beginning in a consonant sound, right? Usually the letter T or the sound T. Let's talk about the letter. Usually the letter T, and before that there's another consonant sound. In this case, that's the S letter, and right after that you've got another consonant. Okay, so usually when this is the case, the middle gets dropped. You don't pronounce it. You say, just stay, just stay. And this is called in English, technically, as simplification. Simplification. And when you get many consonant sounds together, that's called a consonant cluster. Consonant cluster. Like this. Consonant cluster. Which means that there are two or three consonants together right next to one another. Let's go back to the story now. Just let me have a look at the chats. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll be really supporting the channel, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you're enjoying this content, of course. Introduce yourselves if you want to. If you leave a comment in the comment section, that'll be great. That'll be really helping me, helping my channels, because right now I'm on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. And don't forget, after this live session comes to an end, you'll be able to find this episode on my YouTube channel, and there I'll include timestamps so that you can navigate the episode as you prefer. Okay, let's go back to the story, this mystery story, read by Luke Thompson.
Until the morning. Surely on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight? Surely you would just stay put until the morning.
Surely you would just stay put until the morning. Can you repeat after me? Surely you would just stay put. You would just stay put until the morning. We've just said that we don't say, he doesn't say, just stay, but just stay. And we call that simplification. Dropping the middle consonant, the T here. Surely you would just stay put until the morning. Put until the morning. Can you repeat that after me? Surely you would just stay put. Your turn. Until the morning. Your turn. Until the morning. Until the morning. And remember, in Luke Thompson's accent, in Southern Standard British English, this letter, R, the sound R, is not pronounced right before consonant sounds. That's why in morning it's not pronounced. But this is not the case in other accents like American English. Morning, you will say there. But here you say morning. Let's continue with the story.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
And I think that this is one of the most, or the most interesting utterance. An utterance refers to a chunk of spoken English. Utterance. Yeah, it comes from utter. Let me play you the pronunciation. Yeah, so you say
utterance.
Utterance. Utterance. And utterance. It means a chunk of spoken English, okay? As opposed to a sentence, which usually refers to something written, a piece of written English, or usually seen as an object of study in terms of grammar. So utterance, this utterance is one of the most interesting in the story. Let's watch it again.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
So, if this weren't connected speech, you would read this like this. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. But that is not what Luke Thompson does it? He does something completely different.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
So this is the must have been. The must have been. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. There must have been. So this one, this is not they here. They becomes the. There must have been. Shall we listen to that once again? Let's see if we can slow it down a bit more. There we are.
Morning. There must have been a rush.
There must have been. There must have been.
Rush to get where they were going. There must have been in a rush to get where. There must have been in a.
There must have been. There must have been. There must have been. Yeah.
He signalled down and pulled. He signalled down. There must have been till the morning. There must
have been. Yeah, with an F. There must have been. So there must have been. There must have been. There must have been. He doesn't say they. There's no time for that. There must have been. There muster. He doesn't say have. This one is not have here. It's a schwa actually. It ends up being a schwa. And there's an instance of catenation. Muster. It doesn't sound like English, does it? Muster. There must have been. Let me try this again. Muster. There must have been. This is usually the case in connected speech. The H here is gets dropped. And this auxiliary verb, when not stressed, is usually pronounced as or have. But in this case, he says must have been. Shall we listen to that again? Shall we watch it again?
Until the morning. There must have been in.
Must have been. So he doesn't pronounce the have. He doesn't say have or of, but must have been. There must have been. So we drop this, we drop the E, we drop the V or the, we drop the H or H sound, and we drop this one too, and we get there must have been in a rush
To get where they were going. In a rush to get where.
Does he say to get or something else? What do you think? to get where they were going. Actually, he says, to get where they were going, to get where they were going. And as we discussed before, there's a glottal stop there. To get where they were going, which is usually the case with Luke Thompson when he pronounces the word get. Usually he produces a glottal stop at the end. To get where they were going, to get where they were going. Let's watch that again.
There we go. He signalled down where they were going. Must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
To get where they were going. So, yeah, there's a glottal stop there. This is produced. This is a symbol to represent the glottal stop. It seems to be a question mark, but actually it's a glottal stop to get where they were going. And here we've got an interesting phenomenon, because if we pronounce these words in isolation, we say they were, where they were going, where they were going. But in connected speech, this changes to
a rush to get where they were going.
where they were going, where they were going. So what we hear is him saying where they were going, where they were going. Where ends up being where there. Rather than they, he says there. Where there were go, where there were. And this one, rather than were, is were with the schwa. So where they were going, where they were going. To get where they were going. Weather. And it seems that this sounds just like the word weather. Whether we're going. To get whether we're going. Try that. To get whether we're going. They must have been in a rush to get whether we're going. To get whether we're going. That's a great rhythm he gets here. To get whether we're going. To get whether we're going. They must have been in a rush to get whether we're going. And let's do the following. Let's repeat after Luke, and then we can shadow him. Okay? And just in case you don't know what shadowing or shadow means, it refers to saying something at the same time as another person. So it's a way of repeating, but at the same time.
Morning. They must have been in a rush.
They must have been in a rush. You repeat after me. They must have been in a rush. They must have been in a rush. You. And now the challenge is, let's shadow Luke. Let's see if we can repeat with him at the same time.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were.
So he slows down when he gets so in a rush.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
Now let's continue with the second part of this sentence.
Have been in a rush to get where they were going.
To get where they were going. To get where they were going. Repeat after me. To get where they were going. To get where they were going. Where they were going. To get where they were going. You say it. To get where they were going. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channels, my YouTube channel, my TikTok channel, to support this, well, my project Alex's Adventures in English, this project. And if you want more content like this, yeah, you can be sure that I'm going to continue doing this. But of course, if you support my channels, that'll be much better for me. You're really helping me. Okay, so let's go back to, I was just checking out the chats on YouTube and TikTok. Hello guys, hello and welcome to Alex's Adventures in English. I hope you're enjoying this breakdown, this pronunciation breakdown of the escaped man. And just so you know, part 1 is you can find that on my YouTube channel, because I recorded it live some time ago, some weeks ago, I think. So if you go there, you'll find it, and you can watch it whenever you want, and then you can come back to this episode, which you'll find on YouTube too later on, after it comes to an end. And whenever I can, whenever YouTube lets me, I will add to it timestamps so that you can navigate the episode as you prefer. Okay? So now is the time to shadow the second part in the sentence. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. To get where they were going.
Have been in a rush to get where they were going.
Where they were going. Let's shadow all the sentence.
Morning. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
To get where they were going. Now, let's increase the difficulty. That was too slow. Okay.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
Let's repeat first.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. Now let's try and shadow Luke.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
That's at 65% of speed. Now let's increase that a bit more. 75.
Glad to be out of the rain.
So, you might be wondering why I'm doing this. Why did I start? Well, why I started at slower speed. The thing is that first you need to notice certain aspects of Luke's speech. Ideally, you should notice what he does when he pronounces words, what native speakers do when they pronounce words, especially in connected speech. And after that, now we are increasing the speed, and we can, we are more capable of being able to shadow or repeating what they say. Yeah, we're more capable of repeating or shadowing what they say. That's what I wanted to say.
Surely you would just stay put until the morning. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. Morning.
Okay.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. Let's see if we can shadow that.
They must have been in a would just stay put until the morning. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Do let me know in the comments. Drop your comments below. And thank you very much for supporting this live session, this pronunciation breakdown, live pronunciation breakdown of The Escaped Man by C.T. Platt, written by C.T. Platt and read by Luke Thompson on his channel, Luke's English Podcasts. And remember, just so you know, this is part 2 of my pronunciation breakdown. Part 1 is already sorry. Part 1 is already on my YouTube channel. I recorded it live some days ago, so you'll find it there. So if you're on TikTok, you can go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and watch this live session. And guys, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, go to YouTube and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, you can go to my TikTok and subscribe. Of course, if you want to. You don't have to. Let's continue.
He signalled down.
Now at 65% of speed.
Why on earth would anyone be hitchhiking tonight? Surely you would just stay put until the morning. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going.
To get where they were going. Now, let's continue with the next line.
He signalled down and pulled over. He signalled down and pulled over.
He signalled down and pulled over. He signalled down. He signalled down and pulled over. Can you repeat after me? He signalled down and pulled over. Or you can repeat after Luke.
He signalled down and pulled over.
And pulled over. He signalled down and pulled over. Yeah, so at this point, there is another rule I like to explain to you, which is related to the pronunciation of ed, the ed ending in regular verbs in the simple past. Just dropped my pen. There we go. So, what I was telling you was that look at these verbs, signalled and pulled. Both are in the simple pasts. Both are regular verbs in the simple pasts. But how do we pronounce the ed ending? Do we say id? Do we say d? Do we say t? What does Luke say? What does he do?
He signalled down and pulled over.
Signal down, signal down. You may not notice it there. You may not notice the d sound there because the next word begins with the same sound. So he's not producing two d sounds. So two d's. He's only saying signal down, signal down. But the thing is that in the word signal, in the simple past, you pronounce the ending, the ed ending as d. Like this. Signalled, signalled. And in pulled,
the hitchhiker down and pulled over.
and pulled over, and pulled over. Again, the ending is pronounced as d, 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 d. So, there's another example of this kind of pronunciation right in the next line. So, we should watch that first.
The hitchhiker climbed in.
Climbed in. In that case, you can hear the d sound, because what he does, what can be seen here is an instance of catenation, which, by the way, guys, in case you don't know, because you've just joined the session, catenation is the linking of a final consonant to the initial vowel sound in the next word. So, for example, pulled over, or climbed in, climbed in. Luke actually does that here.
And pulled over.
Pulled over, pulled over, pulled over. He connects. The final consonant, the, with the initial vowel sound in the next word. And the same, it does the same with climbed in, climbed in. Let's watch it again.
He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in.
Climbed in, climbed in. And just so you know, there's another thing, there's another important thing to bear in mind here, which is that in climb, the B is silent. The consonant B, 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 or the letter B is silent. You don't pronounce it. It's climb. You climb. Climb a mountain. Let's listen to the dictionary. A dictionary, actually.
Climb.
Climb. Climb. Climb. So this is an instance of this is an example of a word with a silent letter. Climb. Climb. Just like the word comb, for example. You know what you use for your hair, if you've got hair. I mean, when you do have hair, use a comb to comb it. So comb, comb, in comb, the B silent too. Comb, comb. And this one is climb, climb. But as the story is narrated in the simple past tense, he says climbed, climbed, climbed in, climbed in. And as the next word begins with a vowel sound, he connects the two words, joining the final consonant, the d, in climbed, climbed, climbed in, climbed in. Let's watch that again.
Pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in.
Climbed in, climbed in. So that's catenation. Catenation climbs in. It seems both these two words seem to be one word. Climbed in, climbed in. The hitchhiker climbed in, climbed in. Okay, now we're gonna watch these two lines again, and we'll repeat after Luke.
He signalled down and pulled over.
He signalled down. He signalled down. He signalled down and pulled over. He signalled down and pulled over. Now let's try and shadow Luke. Remember that shadow means to repeat right at the same time as another speaker is saying something. So you repeat at the same time.
He signalled down and pulled over.
Let's try it again.
He signalled down. He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed.
Okay, now let's move on to the hitchhiker. That line.
Signalled down and pulled over.
We'll watch or listen and repeat. First,
The hitchhiker climbed in.
the hitchhiker climbed in. The hitchhiker climbed in. Repeat after me. The hitchhiker climbed in. How are you finding it, guys? Is it difficult for you? Is it too difficult? Practice makes perfect. Don't forget. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. The better you'll become. So this is the hitchhiker climbed in, climbed in, climbed in. Now let's watch him again and repeat right after him.
He pulled his quickly. The hitchhiker signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in.
The hitchhiker climbed in. Now let's shadow Luke. Welcome to my channel, guys. Welcome to Alex's Adventures in English, and welcome to this live session. This live pronunciation breakdown of the second part of The Escaped Man, written by C.T. Platt and read by Luke Thompson from Luke's English Podcasts. By the way, guys, don't forget, you'll be able to find part 1 of this pronunciation breakdown I'm doing today. I did the same for part 1, for the first 5 lines in the story. So the first 5 lines I did the same in that episode, in the previous episode to this one, and you'll find that on YouTube. So you can go and check it out if you want to, of course, and don't forget to subscribe. Great. So this is the hitchhiker climbed in. Let's see if we can shadow that.
He shut the door. He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in.
Let's do it again.
Over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut.
Perfect. So the hitchhiker climbed in. Now let's move on to the next line. quite uncomfortable in this chair. Yeah. All right. So,
Shut the door quickly.
he shut the door quickly. He shut the door quickly. Let's watch that again.
Climbed in. He shut the door quickly.
He shut the door quickly. Does he say shuts or shut? He shut the door. He shut the door quickly. There's a glottal stop at the end of shut. He shut the door quickly. He shut the door quickly. Repeat after me. He shut the door quickly. Your turn. He shut the door quickly. If you like these guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channels on YouTube and TikTok. I'd really appreciate it. Great. So he shut the door quickly. Repeat after me. He shut the door quickly. He shut the door quickly. Yeah. He shut the door quickly. He shut the door quickly. He shut the door quickly. 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 Well done, guys. You're doing a great job today. You're doing an excellent job, guys. So, yes. He shut the door quickly. Perfect. Let's continue. Now we'll try to shadow Luke. Let's give it a go.
Glad to be out of over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly. Glad
Again.
climbed in. He shut the door quickly. Glad.
The door. The door. The with a schwa. With a schwa, remember. Because you get. So this T is replaced by a glottal stop. Like this. That's a symbol to represent or that represents the sound of the glottal stop. He shut the door. The door. And this one is pronounced with a schwa. Because right after it comes a word beginning with a consonant sound. The consonant sound D. Or the consonant sound D, actually. So you say the door. The door. He shut the door quickly. The door. And you don't pronounce the letter R at the end of door. That's a silent letter in Luke Thompson's accent, Southern Standard British English. You don't say door, the door, the door. That's in American English and other accents as well. They say door, the door. But this is the door, door. door with a long O sound. Let's continue, guys. Any doubts so far? If you do have any, drop them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe, to like and subscribe. Guys, we are live on YouTube and TikTok at the moment. Excellent. You're really supporting my channel with a thumbs up, right? With a like.
Climbed in. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain.
Glad to be out of the rain. Glad to be out of the rain. Let's listen to that. Let's watch that once again.
He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain.
Glad to be out of the rain. Glad to be out of the rain. So glad to be out of the rain. Can you repeat that? Glad to be out of the rain. Glad to be out of the rain.
Pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain.
Glad to be out of the rain. Glad to be out of the rain. So glad to be out, to be out, glad to be out. We can here connect glad to be out with a ya sound. You can say be out, glad to be out, glad to be. You pronounce these two like this, t, because right after it comes a consonant sound. Glad to be out of the rain, out of. That's an instance of catenation there, because he links the final consonant in out to the initial vowel sound in of, out of the rain, out of the rain. And this word is pronounced with a schwa sound too. So you get glad to be out of the rain, rain. See if we can shadow Luke. Shall we?
The door quickly, glad to be out of the rain.
Glad to be out of the rain. That's repeating after him. Rather, let's try and shadow, which means repeating right at the same time.
He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He pulled the door. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He pulled his hood. The hitchhiker climbed down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He signalled down and pulled over.
Okay, let's do it again.
He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He pulled his hood.
Okay. There was. I did a bit of shadowing of the three lines. These three lines. But I think that if you're not very used to doing this, let's try and do this line by line. Okay? And do let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this, or if you've been able to nail these pronunciations, these repeating, the repetition of what Luke says and the shadowing. Let me know if you've been able to nail that. To nail means to be successful in doing something. But to nail something is an informal expression, is an informal verb. To nail, you nail it. When you say you nail it, for example, you nailed it. Which means that you've succeeded in doing it, in doing something. You managed to do it successfully.
Surely you would just stay put until the morning. They must have been in a rush to get where they were going. He signalled down and pulled over.
He signalled down and pulled over. Now let's try and shadow that.
He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed down and pulled over.
Now let's repeat after Luke.
He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door.
Now let's shadow him.
He signalled down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly.
He shut the door quickly. You repeat after me. He shut the door quickly. Good. Very good. Loud and clear. Excellent. Well done. Now let's shadow it. Let's shadow Luke. Rather.
Glad to be out of the rain. He shut the door quickly, glad climbed down and pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He shut the door quickly.
Now listen and repeat.
Glad to be out of the rain. He shut the door quickly. Hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly.
He shut the door quickly.
Hitchhiker climbed in. He shut the door quickly.
Yes. He shut the door quickly.
Glad to be out of. He shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He
Glad to be out of the rain. This is the line we broke down before. Glad to be out of the rain.
shut the door quickly, glad to be out of the rain. He pulled.
Remember, you do that too. If you come back to this episode later on, don't forget to do that to improve your English. You need to repeat first, listen first, watch, listen, repeat after Luke, or you can repeat after me, of course. And then later on you shadow Luke, which means repeating what he says at the same time he says it.
his hood.
And thank you very much, guys, for your support, for watching this session on YouTube and TikTok. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Don't forget. You'll be supporting my channel quite a lot. Yes, absolutely.
And sighed.
And sighed. And sighed. Now the question is, how do we pronounce, or how is sighed pronounced, this word? Especially given that it's in the simple past. The infinitive verb is sigh. 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 And this is something I was mentioning to you before. With signaled and pulled over. Why is it that we pronounce the ed ending as d and not as t or ed? What I was about to tell you was that when a verb ends in a voiced consonant or a voiced sound, to be more precise, in a voiced sound, and you may be wondering what on earth do I mean by this? Voiced sound? What is that, Alex? Well, actually, a voiced sound is a sound that when you produce it, there's vibration in the vocal folds, in your vocal folds or chords. There's vibration. So, for example, signal. The word signal ends in l, which is a voiced consonant because it produces vibration, or we produce vibration in the vocal folds to produce that sound. And the thing is that the rule is that when a verb ends in a voiced consonant that is not the, as in, for example, need ends in d, in the consonant D, the letter D, but the sound is called d. We refer to the sound as d. Okay? So in this case, what we said before in this live session is that when a verb in the infinitive ends in d, the d sound, or t or d, the way we pronounce the ed ending is this one. Ed, needed, spotted. Can you see that on screen? I think so. Yes. Good. I was just double checking that. Great. So, to stop. Let me go to the great. Needed, spotted. Double T, spotted. So this is spotted. Okay, spotted, needed. But when the verb ends in a voiced sound that is not the, like signal, or pool again ends in, you get the L consonant there, L, which is voiced. If you put your fingers here, you'll notice vibration. L, 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 L. So this is a voiced sound. And when a verb ends in a voiced sound, if it's regular in the simple past, you add ed or only d, and you pronounce that ed as z. So, for example, signaled, pulled over. That's why Luke says pulled over. And then there's another verb ending in a voiced sound, which is climb. Climb ends in a m consonant, in the m, which is, by the way, voiced. This one produces vibration everywhere, in your face, in the throat. So the ed is pronounced as d. Combed. Sorry, climbed. And that's why Luke says, the hitchhiker climbed in. The hitchhiker climbed in. Because climbed in. And don't forget that there's an instance of catenation there. The final consonant in the word climbed, which is d in this case, because it's the simple past. Climbed in. And this rule, of course, of pronunciation applies to pool, because it ends with the consonant sound l. He pulled. Okay, let's listen to that line. He pulled.
He pulled his hood back and sighed.
He pulled his hood back. And sighed. Hello guys, welcome to this live session. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel on YouTube and on TikTok. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. So don't forget to check out my socials. And yeah, don't forget about it. And also, do give me a thumbs up, please. If you can, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It will really help me with my channel on YouTube and TikTok. Actually, 2 channels, one on TikTok and another on YouTube. Okay, let's continue.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s. He was somewhere in his mid-20s. What's going on here? We can sort it out quickly. He was somewhere. He was somewhere in... Let's watch that again.
He was somewhere in his...
Somewhere in... This is an instance of linking right. Because, as I told you before, in Luke's accent, in standard Southern British English, you don't usually pronounce this sound, the R sound. You don't usually pronounce it, except the only exception to this rule is when that letter or that sound is immediately followed by a vowel sound. So you say somewhere in, wherein. In somewhere, you don't pronounce the final E, of course. You don't say something like somewhere E, but somewhere. And you wouldn't usually pronounce the R in somewhere in this accent, but this is an exception because right after it comes the vowel sound I in the word in. So he was somewhere in his mid-20s.
Mid-20s and had wild red hair.
And had wild red hair.
Thick beards. He was somewhere in his mid-20s and had wild red hair.
Okay. So what if we repeat after Luke? Let's do that. But before we do that, guys, I need to go to the toilet. Nature calls. Just a sec. Be right back. Just a second. So here we go. Alright, be back in a jiffy. Yeah, be back in a jiffy, which means in a short time, in a short period of time. back, guys. Just give me 1 sec. I need to drink some water. Okay. There we go. Now I feel much better. So, going back to the story. Let's rewind a bit.
He was somewhere.
He was somewhere. There we go. He was somewhere. With a schwa, you pronounce that with a schwa. He was somewhere. He was somewhere. He was somewhere. He was somewhere in his mid-20s.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s. Now, let's see if you can shadow. We can shadow him together. Shall we do that? Yeah, let's try and shadow Luke together. Let's do that. So, he says,
and sighed. He was somewhere in his mid-20s and had wild red hair and a thick...
Okay, there's something else I'd like to tell you about this. He was somewhere in his mid-20s. We mentioned that there's a linking ra here, connecting somewhere and in. Somewhere in his mid-20s. And let's listen to it again.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s.
In his mid-20s.
Had wild red hair.
And had wild red hair. Hair. He doesn't say hair. Neither he says hair. As you would expect in American English. So hair. He had wild red hair. What's this? Well, why is he saying that? This is something that can be found in Luke's accent, in standard Southern British English, in received pronunciation in RP. This would be typically pronounced as hair, as a diphthong, air, as the diphthong, air. But in this case, you get air. It's like an air sound, a long air sound. So you get and had wild red hair.
And a thickies, and had wild red hair and a thick beard.
hair. This seems like he's pronouncing two. So the sound it seems like double. He's doubling that sound. Hair. Okay, so that will be the last line.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s and had wild red hair and a thick beard.
And a thick beard. And a thick beard. And a thick beard. So, what if we repeat after Luke and then we shadow him?
And sighed. He was somewhere in his mid-20s.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s. Now, let's try and shadow him.
And sighed. He was somewhere in his mid-20s and had wild red hair.
And had wild red hair. Your turn. And had wild.
And a thick beard.
And a thick beard. And a thick beard. You. And a thick beard. You. Very good. Excellent. Now we've got to shadow the second line.
He was somewhere in his mid-20s and had wild red hair and a thick beard.
So, that's it, isn't it? So this is the extract. This is an extract from the story. Is actually the very beginning of the story of the escaped man by C.T. Platt, read by Luke Thompson. You can find the rest on Luke's English podcasts. You can go to his YouTube channel, his website too, teacherluke.co.uk, and don't forget that I've broken down the pronunciation of these extracts in part 2. This is so an extract in part 2, this one, and in part 1 I broke down the extracts coming right before this one, so the very beginning of the story. So for homework, you should go and check. You should go and check my part 1 of this episode. You can go to my YouTube channel and find it there. You'll find you'll find part 1 of this episode, and also for homework you should go to Luke's English podcast and you can watch the full episode where he analyzes. First he gives a brief context of the story, then he reads the story and analyzes vocabulary and grammar. So it's quite complete. He just doesn't deal with pronunciation in detail in that episode. That's why this episode is, I present this episode as a complement to that episode, to Luke Thompson's episode. So guys, what else is there to say? I'd like to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you on TikTok and YouTube. Guys, do you have any comments? Do you have any doubts? If you do have any doubts and you weren't able to watch this live session, you can drop your comments or doubts in the comment section in the replay, okay? Which is something you'll be able to see after this session comes to an end, and you'll get to see that on YouTube, on my YouTube, Alex's Adventures in English. And yeah, just so everything I said about Luke Thompson's episode implies that this episode is not meant to replace Luke's original episode. It's just a companion, right? So it's a tool to help you dive even deeper into your pronunciation training. And so what you can do apart from the homework I've assigned to you is, go back to this episode, to part 1, and repeat the clips, shadow Luke, shadow me again. And if you're up for it, you can record yourself and compare. Okay? So guys, until next time, and thank you very much for watching me in this live session on YouTube and TikTok. I am looking forward to hearing from you and to my next episode of Alex's Adventures in English. Bye bye for now, and have a great weekend. Bye bye.